Hello and welcome to DY's Flash Gala review for summer July 2024. I jumbled those words up today. But anyways, today this banner brings us two new characters and a new summon. We have Summer Light Cucouroux, we have Dark Hallessena, and we also have Mars Summer Summon. So without much ado, let's get right into it. So first up, Cucouroux. Cucouroux shares a lot of similarities with her Earth Halloween version. She has a lot of normal attack stuff and a lot of skill damage to pair with it. So let's break down her kit. First up, she has this unique stack called Aquatanks. These Aquatanks are gained whenever your team does normal attacks and they crit. And these stacks are also consumed via this passive. And basically, she does a big skill nuke at the end of the turn based on how many tank stacks she has. So she can have up to 5 stacks. And the only way to get 5 stacks is from your team normal attacking fully and having an additional tag team or a double strike effect. Or in this case, Cucouroux also brings it on her third skill where she attacks without using up a turn. So she has this self-tag team effect. So through those, she will auto nuke at the end of the turn. So for some full auto strategies, or maybe I find it unlikely, but maybe in some burst strategies, if this nuke ends up being significant, it could be good. And speaking of burst, her first passive here will give light echoes to the team whenever your team does critical hits. So she has a bit of critical hit synergy as part of her passives and her skills up here as well. One thing to note about this particular passive is that it is A-sided echoes, and that's basically a fancy way of saying that this type of passive does not stack with, most notably, Echo Key on your Dark Opus weapon, and also it doesn't stack with Light Halloween Mugen's passive. So that's something very important to note. So if it's stacked, it would be extremely good, but it doesn't, so only the highest value takes effect. Alright, and then speaking of her crit, I don't think there are numbers out for this exactly yet, but she does provide the entire light team with critical strike chance, which is obviously very nice, and also some supplemental skill damage. And the skill damage, she does quite a fair amount because this does 6 hits, and then this also does 4 hits, and this skill here brings a new debuff that we haven't seen before. So basically, how this new debuff works is that from your 0 to your 10th hit, it will deal no extra supplemental, but from the 11th to the 20th, you will get 10,000 supplemental damage, and then from 20th to the 30th hit, you will get 30,000 supplemental. So it's sort of this conditional supplemental debuff that scales the more hits you do within a certain time, or within a certain turn rather. Now, this particular debuff also interacts with her third skill, because if the enemy has the debuff, Cucouroux will gain one-time flurry effect on her self-tag team, which is quite nice. Overall, I think Cucouroux is looking to be a pretty solid full auto skill damage character, much like sort of her Earth version. I don't think there is much meta usage in Burst, unless her numbers look really, really good once they are figured out. But in full auto, I think she will pair really, really well with someone like Holiday Illnot, because Holiday Illnot reduces cooldowns of red skills, and all of these are red skills. Holiday Illnot also does skill damage after the normal attacks, which Cucouroux does. Illnot buffs skill damage. Cucouroux also buffs skill damage here, so I think those two synergize really nicely together. Cucouroux unfortunately doesn't bring any utility as part of her kit. She doesn't bring dispels or anything like that, but Illnot does cover that, and maybe your third character and your MC can cover that. In most regular general content, I think you will be able to use Cucouroux in some fun skill damage based full auto setups. Alright, let's talk about the next character. Next up we have Dark Hallessena. So Hallessena here is a very heavily charge attack focused character, and most of her kit revolves around this particular skill here and getting this Gourd Crusher stack. So the Gourd Crusher stack over here in her second passive, it's explained that she gets this whenever she charge attacks, right? And based on how many stacks she has, she gets these various buffs, damage cap, charge bar gain, and dispel cancel effect. She will be able to get the Gourd Crusher to level 3 just from her second skill here. because this skill here gives her 100% charge bar, and then she will Ogi once, so she gets 1 stack. And then this particular effect here is that whenever she dodges, she gets 100% charge bar. So as long as the boss has some sort of AoE normal or something like that which targets Hallessena, she'll dodge, she'll get 100% bar, so she Ogis on turn 2, and then it lasts 2 times, so she'll Ogi on turn 3 as well, which means that you'll get instantly, or not instantly, but after 3 turns, you'll get 3 stacks. Now, once you hit 3 stacks, she gets those buffs, and it will buff her charge attack, which will now do 2 charge attacks whenever she Ogis. So over longer rotations and charge attack lineups, she will be able to ramp up and do more charge attacks. Her other skills here also provide a little bit of utility. This one here, most significantly, can only be used once her stacks are at level 3. And then she provides 100% boost to charge bar to everybody. So along with this skill here, the second skill, she will be able to charge attack 4 turns in a row as long as the boss targets her and she dodges. And then on that 4th turn, she will charge attack twice because she has 3 stacks, and then this conditional effect will apply. Now, also on her charge attack, she will auto-activate her first skill, which is a 5-hit dark damage nuke, which does hit to defense and multi-attack. These debuffs are quite useful, and it might be useful for certain debuff omens because it has 3 debuffs, and in the long term, it will activate twice. So it'll be 6 debuffs every charge attack, so that could be nice. I haven't seen the numbers for this nuke just yet, but 5 hits normally means that it gets good benefit out of things like Agonize too, so there's some nice synergy there. And then finally, on her first passive, she gains triple attack rate and dodge rate based on her height, which is given through her charge attack here. So overall, Hallessena obviously looking like a great charge attack character, but not super duper meta in my opinion. Alright, and then finally, let's look at the summon. So we have Mars Summer Summon coming back from her long hiatus after Guild War. So this particular summon, there's a lot of things to talk about. In this menu, we can't actually see the FLB, the 4-star effects, but basically Mars brings supplemental light allies normal attack damage on her call, and once you fully uncap her, you get echoes as well. Now the echo value is currently, as far as I know, 20%, and the supplemental is 50,000. So compared to a summon like Artemis, she brings slightly less echoes. Artemis gives 30% and full uncap, and Mars gives 20%, but she also brings that 50,000 supplemental normal attack damage. Now, as far as I know, I believe that normal attack damage will stack with things like Nehan, but do check that once people have tested, because this is all very early information, so it's subject to change basically. Now, Mars also brings a sub-aura, this debuff immunity to light allies at battle start effect. So Veil at the start of the battle is extremely important in Guild War usually. In Guild War, having that Veil one time when Guild War bosses tend to put out these really annoying debuffs is quite useful. And speaking of Guild War, that's very much where this summon will shine the most. So this summon is looking to be very, very good for light burst in Guild War, and maybe in rotations for something like Proto Bahamut Gold Bar farming as well. Once you fully uncap, the sub-aura also gives you critical strike chance, and as far as I know, it is a 100% chance to deal 20% extra damage. So 120 crit. Now crit is important in light, not just because of a character like Cucouroux from earlier, but because of Light's Exalto weapon, Sandalphon's weapon, which is Ephes. So Ephes gives you amplified damage whenever you crit. So Mars giving that guaranteed crit for 3 turns is quite useful there as well. I think grids will still want to run 100% crit, but maybe there's some room to not worry about that if you're doing a rotation under 3 turns. We will have to see. All right. So with the new stuff out of the way, let's look at the current grand rate ups. So on this banner, we also have Galleon, and we also have Golden Knight on rate up. So let's talk about Golden Knight first. Golden Knight and Cerastus, unfortunately, both character and summon are not really used. Golden Knight can be used in certain charge attack lineups where you can fulfill her 15 buff passive. She does charge attack twice, and that can be useful in certain lineups, but it is very, very niche. And then secondly, the weapon, her weapon Cerastus is not really used in modern day Titan grids. It's a filler piece in some old grids, but these days not really used. And with Dirt Exalto weapon potentially around the corner, I don't think you'll be using Cerastus at all these days. Moving on to Galleon. So Galleon as a unit, she is a decent unit for full auto. She has a Dispel that procs every couple turns, which is quite useful. And then she's really tanky, she does decent damage. And if you are manualing, you can also place her buff onto your allies, which is a really strong offensive and defensive buff. For that reason, she is also seen a little bit in HL. Now, these days, in modern HL teams, you don't tend to see Galleon. You tend to see characters more like Olivia, Raziel, Kaim, that sort of thing. But if you're still missing characters, if you're missing certain units, Galleon can be a decent filler unit there. Now, Landslide Scepter, however, on the other hand, is currently extremely core for any sort of Titan grid. Due to the way this particular weapon skill works here, when 3 or more of the same weapon are equipped, you get these effects. For this reason, currently in all Titan grids, you pretty much see 3 Landslide Scepters always, because you just use these to proc their own effect. However, in the future, when Exalto comes out, there is a chance this flips. Maybe in the future we use 3 Exalto weapons and only 1 Landslide Scepter. There is a chance that happens. So Landslide Scepter is a great raid up on the banner. It's a weapon you definitely want for Titan. However, mind the fact that in the future, if Earth Exalto weapon comes out, there is a chance that its priority drops just a little bit. Titan is in this little bit of an uncertain state at the moment, just because Exalto is looming around the corner and we just don't know what it will bring on its weapon skills. So yeah, do keep that in mind. It's a great weapon as of right now. You want 3 copies right now, but it might change in the future. Alright, so should you spark this banner? So in my opinion, from a meta-analysis standpoint, unless you're sparking for Mars or Landslide Scepters, if you're a Titan or want to be an invested Titan player, I would skip this banner. I think both characters here look fine for full auto, and in Cucouroux's case, skill damage teams, and in Halessena's case, charger type based teams. I think both characters are largely not super duper core in anything at the moment. However, I do think Mars is quite pivotal for light burst teams. So if you're pulling on this banner, I think you are doing it really for Mars. Now, the other reason why I'm suggesting to wait is based off what we know from last year. So taking a look at last year's banners or upcoming banners, currently we're on this banner here, the July Flash, right? This is last year's one where we got Annual and Basaraga. But if you look at July here, last year we got 4 new summer characters and a new summon as well on this banner. Now there's no guarantee this happens again, but as you can see, as summer progressed, there's 2 characters here, 2 characters here, 4 characters plus a summon here, and then 3 characters plus a summon here. As you can see, last year, as we approached the end of summer, which is August Flash, they started adding more and more stuff. There's no guarantee this happens again this year, but there's a good chance, and seeing as this banner doesn't have anything super duper meta, I would personally suggest waiting for these banners over here. And the other thing to note about August Flash here is that last year, the anniversary summers were sparkable here as well. So you can see here in the sparkable SSR characters, we had Ilsa, we had Monica, we had Neza, which are all from the anniversary period. So for us this year, it would be Horus, Magus, Elmot, and Delaphi. So since there are potentially very, very noteworthy banners coming up with Premium Gala at the end of this month and then August Flash next month, I would heavily suggest waiting and passing on this banner. Alright, and I think that about does it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye. Bye-bye.